Yo, what is good everyone? Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prodigy channel, and in this video I am just simply going to be going through my 3 leagues and getting my lineups ready for week 5 of the 2020 fantasy football season. We got a few decisions to make. We got to deal with some bye weeks, just some injuries, stuff like that. So before we get into that, guys, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And with that being said, we're going to start with this league right here. This is a 12-team non-PPR league. So we're going to start by just going through the transactions that I made for this week right here. So these are just the transactions that occurred in my league. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but you see Damian Harris went for 45 out of 200 points, like fab budget or whatever. D'Ernest Johnson went for 30, and then I ended up getting Justin Jackson for 22. Those are kind of the bigger ones. I'm actually going to sort this just by my team so we can focus on my team because that's what's at hand right here. So I did end up dropping Jeff Wilson and Kerryon Johnson, just so I didn't have to deal with like picking someone to drop because when I was adding new players, because I knew that I really don't want these guys on my team anymore. There's just better players in my league. So I added Justin Jackson for 22 fab points. I also added Kirk Cousins for free because he does have a good matchup this week, but he's also playing Atlanta next week. And I do have Drew Brees, so we will talk about that later on. Drew Brees has been my starting quarterback so far this year, but it's been a little iffy. And then I also added Gostkowski, the kicker for the Titans, and dropped Mason Crosby because the Packers are on a bye week. So that's pretty much it. This is the matchup from last week. I got smoked. As you can see, I only had 77.74 points. He had a lot of points. He had 125. I believe he almost had the most in the league. The most was 131.5. And I think I had the second least in the league. So definitely did not really have a chance. But here's the lineup. I mean, Chris Carson had a good week, and so did Will Fuller. But other than that, pretty much all busts in my lineup. And you see he had a lot of good performances in his lineup. And then here are our benches as well. I was without Chris Godwin with injury. Same with Raheem Mostert. McCaffrey's on IR. So I am dealing with a lot of injuries in this league. So that's why, if you're dealing with injuries as well, you might just kind of want to see how I'm going to be approaching week 5 because you might be dealing with some of these injuries too. So because McCaffrey is out and because Godwin is out, I have to make do with other players on my team. So I'm going to be playing Chris Carson again because he is in as of now. I was kind of forced to play David Montgomery in a kind of tough matchup with Tampa Bay. Luckily, he did get into the end zone, so he had a decent game. And the guy I was playing had Allen Robinson, who had 9 non-PPR points. So right now, the only decision that we really are looking at making is what to do with Raheem Mostert, because as of this recording, I'm recording this late at night on the 10th of October. It's almost 11 p.m. and it says that he's expected to be a game time decision. I'm going to post this right after I'm done recording it. So you might be watching it tonight. You might be watching it Sunday morning. So just monitor his situation because we don't really know what's happening. He's a game time decision, and he is in a later game, the 3 o'clock game. So you might be forced to play someone in a noon game who you know for sure is playing if you don't get news about Raheem Mostert, like whether he's playing or not. It's going to be tough, but it is a good matchup with Miami. So if he's playing, I am going to roll with him. If it turns out he is out, I am fortunate enough to have Justin Jackson and Josh Kelley playing on Monday night. So if Mostert is ruled out, I will simply put Carson in at the running back spot, and then I will put Josh Kelley in at my flex. I'd rather roll with Josh Kelley than Justin Jackson because we've seen Josh Kelley have a bit of a role even when Eckler was healthy. He's had a couple bad games in a row, but I think he'll probably lead this duo in touches. It wouldn't surprise me if it's more of like a 50-50 split, but with Eckler out, it's better than nothing, right? If I do need to play someone, if Mostert is out, and like I said, Godwin's out, Deshaun Jackson's out, and McCaffrey's on IR. So my options are very, very limited, and do I stick with Zach Ertz or do I go with Dalton Schultz? That's honestly a tough decision right now because as you guys can see, Zach Ertz really has not been doing very well. I'm not going to lie. It's a tough matchup against Pittsburgh. Dalton Schultz has been doing actually pretty good, so this is actually a tough call to make. So I think I'm going to stick with Zach Ertz. I do like the matchup for Dalton Schultz just because I feel like this game will have more points scored potentially just because the Giants and the Cowboys defense, they're both not playing very well this year. The Cowboys passing game has been very, very strong. But my worry with Dalton Schultz could be that they get up big and they're actually able to feed Zeke and just run out the clock a little bit. Obviously, I still like the matchup for Schultz. I am going to stick with Zach Ertz, though, for this week. Their receiving core is banged up in Philadelphia, and he hasn't done amazing, but he has had a few decent games. He had 70 yards, 18 and a touchdown week 1, 42 yards in week 2. Nothing like too crazy, but I will stick with him for another week. If he has another bad game, it's going to be hard to keep putting him in my lineup if he doesn't have like a very good game this week. But I'm just going to roll with Zach Ertz in this league. I think we'll be good with that. And then I did add Kirk Cousins, not to play over Drew Brees this week, but as I mentioned earlier, he has a very good week 6 matchup with the Atlanta Falcons, and Drew Brees is on bye in week 6. So I was able to scoop up Kirk Cousins for 0 of my fab dollars, 0 of my fab budget, a week ahead of time, and get a guy that I will most likely be playing in week 6 as my starting quarterback, because that matchup with Atlanta is great. His matchup with Seattle is also very, very good. And it's almost worth considering playing him over Drew Brees, because Brees honestly has not been that crazy good. But let's be honest, Kirk Cousins, we'll look at his fantasy finishes here. He hasn't been the face of consistency either. This is the lineup that we're going to roll with for now. We got Gostkowski against Buffalo, the Arizona defense against the Jets, which is perfect. I love to see that matchup. So this is my lineup that I'm rolling with right here. Again, I might move Mostert to the bench if he is out of the game, and I'll just put Josh Kelley in as my flex, move Carson to the running back spot. So I think we're good with that league right there. Now we're going to move on to the next league. This is a 2 quarterback half PPR league. And I forgot to say, in this league, I am 2-2. The previous league I was just talking about. This one, I am also 2-2. I lost last week. This was my matchup. He had some really good performances in his lineup. I had some good games, but Calvin Ridley goosed me. Zach Ertz didn't have a very good game, as we already talked about. Darrell Henderson was a huge letdown. I almost made a video talking about how good of a start I thought Henderson was, but he ended up just not getting the workload that we all expected. And now Cam Akers, I believe, is coming back, if not this week, very soon. So it's not looking good for Henderson. It's looking like it's going to be a 3-headed committee kind of mess. So this was sort of what I did last week. And then one thing to note about week 4 was that there was some uncertainty with, the New England Kansas City game. Calvin Ridley was questionable heading into the game. Was it on Monday night or Sunday night? I can't remember. I think it was Monday night. Either way, I had to add someone that I could pivot to. So I ended up dropping Chase Edmonds for Brian Hill. I ended up not needing Brian Hill. And then Chase Edmonds kind of made some waiver wire columns heading into week 5. And he ended up getting picked up in my league for, where was it? I think it was 15 fab dollars out of 200. I put in an $11 bid to try to get him back. Unfortunately, that was not enough. So I'm really hoping that Edmonds does not blow up and, carve out a bigger role in Arizona, because I just dropped him for a guy that I didn't even really want, just as a, security blanket, to make sure I had someone to play. So that was a bit annoying, but moving on from that, we're just going to take a look at my transactions in this league. So as you can see, here is the transaction I made week 4. Dropped Chase Edmonds, picked up Brian Hill. And then this week I dropped Brian Hill for Justin Jackson, 22 fab dollars. He might have a role in for the Chargers with Austin Eckler out. Sorry, I forgot his name for a second there. But this is my matchup for week 5, everyone. I did play Allen Robinson in this league on Thursday night. I am currently, let me see. Oh yeah, the guy I'm playing didn't play anyone in that game, so at least I don't think he did. No one goosed, right? Yeah, he's got all his spot stuff. So the only decision that I really am worrying about in this league, I already made. I was trying to decide if I should play Allen Robinson in sort of a tough matchup with Tampa Bay, or if I should play DJ Moore, who's been struggling a little bit in a really good matchup with Atlanta. I stuck with Allen Robinson because he's just been a stud all year. He had a big game last week, I believe it was. The last 2 weeks, right? Yeah, 23.3 and 19.6. He didn't have a blow-up game, but he did have 10 catches for 90 yards, so I will take that, especially when my other option is DJ Moore, who, as you can see, has been pretty inconsistent. I wouldn't be surprised if Moore had a good game, and honestly, I would love to be able to fit him in my lineup because I love this matchup, but as you can see, I don't want to bench Tyreek Hill or Amari Cooper for him. Calvin Ridley, even though he goosed, he was kind of banged up. I'm hoping that he comes back and has a good game against Carolina in that same game against DJ Moore. That could potentially be a high-scoring game, and I don't want Calvin Ridley to be on my bench because he's been amazing every week other than his 0-point game. And again, that could have been attributed to injury. Their offense just looked pretty bad. So I'm going to stick with Calvin Ridley. And then a quarterback, we got Murray and Matt Ryan, even though Matt Ryan has been struggling a little bit. You see his last 2 games, nothing too good. But I'm going to stick with him over Jared Goff or Nick Foles, who already played. And then running back, I'm going James Conner and Melvin Gordon. Those are just kind of my running backs, nothing too flashy. I wouldn't mind playing Darrell Henderson if I knew he was going to get the work, but we learned last week that we can't really trust him the week before. We'll look at his box scores here. He had a crazy good game, and then in a matchup with the Giants, he had 8 carries, 1 catch for 16 yards. So that's why fantasy football is a little bit tough to predict sometimes, because who would have ever thought that, he would have just got 8 carries in that game? It makes no sense whatsoever. But yeah, I think we're pretty much set for this lineup. Nothing too crazy to do there. Again, this is a 2 quarterback, half PPR auction league. We did an auction draft. And then this is our dynasty league that I'm in. It's a 1 quarterback league, big benches. It's 30-man rosters. We got taxi squad. So let's see what I did. I ended up cutting up, I cut Travis Homer in order to pick up Zach Pascal. I bid 6 out of 200 fab bucks, and I actually got him. A couple other people put in bids for him, and mine was just a little bit over, so that was a nice bid for me to put in. And then here's the rest of the stuff that happened in the league. So here is my box score from week 4 in this league. As you can see, I ended up winning by about 8 points, so it was a close game. Luckily, my opponent had Calvin Ridley in his lineup, who goosed. If he had even a decent game, I would have lost. Aaron Jones had a good game, but that was on Monday night, but luckily it wasn't good enough. So I got fortunate there. I was able to hold him off. George Kittle really had a blow-up game for me. I'm just going to scroll through the benches quick here. I mean, as you can see, nothing too crazy. I have Dalton Schultz in this league as well. So yeah, one thing I also want to touch on is this is a dynasty league. So another big transaction that was made, I forgot to mention, was that, where is he? He must be in the previous page. Hold on. Yeah, right here. Dearness Johnson, he got picked up for 151 out of 200 fab points. You can see the rest of the bids, 101 and 30. So that was a very, very big investment in him. Hopefully that works out for him. But yeah, let's go ahead and set our lineup for this week now. So we are playing Kirk Cousins. I'm not playing him in my other league. I am playing him in this league. Cam Newton is out with the COVID. Mitch Trubisky's bench. Tyrod Taylor's out. So that is what I have to do. And then we got Clyde, Sanders, McKinnon, and Taylor currently in at my 2 running back spots and my 2 flexes. This is a 2 flex, 3 wide receiver league. So my wide receivers are actually very, very banged up. So we are for sure going with Cooper, Hopkins, and Jerry Jeudy. I'm pretty sure, because I don't necessarily want to play Jeudy against New England, although Gilmore, their cornerback, is going to be out because he also has COVID. So that could bode well for him because the matchup won't be as bad. But as you can see, my other wide receiver options with all these injuries and stuff and bye weeks, like Marvin Jones, bye week, Chris Godwin, injured. I could play Zach Pascal against Cleveland. That is honestly something I could consider, but I think I'll just roll with Jeudy. I feel like he has a little bit more upside. Mike Williams, I could play against New Orleans. He's questionable with a hamstring. I'm not really loving that. I mean, he's kind of iffy. So I think I'm just going to roll with those 3 at wide receiver. Sutton is on IR. I could play Debo, but, he's kind of coming back from injury. He did play last week, but I just want to let him get, acclimated a little bit more before I throw him in the lineup. Yeah, I did play the Bears defense against Tampa Bay. They had 6 points. It was either that or the Chargers against New Orleans. Again, this is a dynasty league, very deep benches, so there are really no free agent defenses. So the only decision I really have to make is McKinnon against Miami, or do I go with James Conner against Philadelphia? So I do have Jerick McKinnon in as my starter right now, just because I did have to play him over James Conner last week, because that was the week their game was postponed because of players having COVID. So I am going to go ahead and put James Conner back in my starting lineup. I do like McKinnon this week, especially if Mostert misses the game. I think he could be a very, very, very good play, but I'm just going to play James Conner. He does carry risk. You never know if he's going to finish a game, and McKinnon has been rock solid. He scored in every single game this week. He is also getting a lot of work, as you can see. 14 carries the last 2 weeks, 7 receptions last week, 3 the week before. Like I said, he scored every single game. So honestly, he's been consistent. He's been good, and I do love this matchup. It's just that my running backs are very, very good in this league, and, it might be more of a decision if Mostert is out. If Mostert is playing, it's for sure James Conner. But if you said you wanted to play McKinnon over Conner, I would not blame you whatsoever. But yeah, that is the those are all the decisions that we have to make in my leagues for this week, for week 5. Hopefully you were able to get some sort of value out of that. Hopefully you are dealing with similar decisions as well. I also want to touch on this one more time. I forgot to mention in this league, I do have Tyler Higbee and Zach Ertz. I know Zach Ertz has been a little bit disappointing. Higbee, he had that one really huge game where he had 3 touchdowns, but other than that, he also hasn't had too many great games. So I am going to stick with Zach Ertz in this league as well. But if you want to pivot to someone else, I would not blame you at all for not playing Zach Ertz. I'm just going to stick with him for a little bit. It was a bad game against San Francisco, but he could rebound. He might not. But who else are they going to throw it to there? That's what people were saying last week too. I get it, but I'm hoping that he can bounce back. So yeah, those are pretty much all the decisions that I had to make in these leagues. And that is pretty much going to do it for this video, guys. If I make any more changes to these lineups, I will put it in a comment down below. I'll also put it in the description as well. I'll literally say like what change I made or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So that is pretty much going to do it for this video, guys. I really do appreciate you watching. Make sure to drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want to see more, and good luck in week 5.